Right, 2016 A-level economics MCQ paper, question number 26. Right, look at this question 26. It says the diagram below displays the behavior of some macroeconomic variables in an economy. So on this side of the diagram, we see the aggregate expenditure, and here we see the national income. If not, we can recognize that to be the real output. And then the question says, if the national income of this economy is Y3 and the aggregate expenditure function is given by AE1, which one of the following is the correct statement? All right. So though they have given us two different functions for the aggregate expenditure in this economy, we don't need to consider this AE2 because the question tells us that right now in this economy, the aggregate expenditure function is given by AE1. And though they have given us three different values for the national income as Y1, Y2, Y3, we don't need to consider about all the three because right now the national income is given by Y3. Right. So this is the real output, if not the national income, and this is the total of aggregate, the total of expenditure, simply aggregate expenditure. And if you analyze, right, this aggregate expenditure function and this 45-degree line where aggregate expenditure becomes equal to the aggregate income, right? At the point where these two get intersect, we can recognize at that point we see the macroeconomic equilibrium. So the macroeconomic equilibrium that is related to these two curves is presented by Y1, but somehow the current level of national income is more than that, and that's just Y3. Right. So the first point says the economy is in equilibrium. See, as per the discussion we had, the economy is in equilibrium at Y1, not at Y3. So this given statement is false with regard to Y3. Second one, there is an unintended inventory accumulation, right? So this unintended inventory accumulation or reduction, how do we really recognize this thing? Very simple. So the national income, when it is Y3, right, the aggregate expenditure is here. So let me just recognize this amount. This is the aggregate expenditure in the economy, right? That is the aggregate expenditure in this economy. So we know this aggregate expenditure is similar to aggregate demand, right? So right now the aggregate demand is only this much. But at Y3, the aggregate income is here. Aggregate income, Y equals E. This is that Y equals E curve. So here we see the aggregate income. So let me write here, that is aggregate income. If not, in other words, that is the aggregate supply, right? That is the aggregate supply. So simply what happens at this point Y3? At this point Y3, as you all can see here, aggregate supply is higher than the aggregate demand, right? Let me write it on this side. Aggregate supply is higher than the aggregate demand. If not, in other words, aggregate income Y is higher than the aggregate expenditure, right? Aggregate expenditure. And in simple terms, as I mentioned earlier, supply is greater than the demand. So what will happen? How do we recognize this situation? If supply exceeds the demand in macroeconomic equilibrium lesson, we simply recognize that as unintended inventory accumulation. If not, in very simple terms, we simply recognize this as excess supply, right? Excess supply. But that same concept in macroeconomic equilibrium lesson, we recognize as unintended inventory accumulation. Yes, it's true. At this level, national income level Y3, we see unintended inventory accumulation. And then the next part says, and national income will rise. See that now, the supply has exceeded the demand, so that what will the suppliers do? Since there's no sufficient demand, these producers will decrease their supply. So when supply decreases, what happens to the aggregate income? When supply decreases, even the aggregate income decreases. But the next part of the sentence says national income will rise. No, the national income will fall. Right? National income will fall. So that's what happens. So that this entire sentence, I mean, the second option is not acceptable. That's wrong. Though the first part is correct, the second part of the sentence is wrong. The third one says there is an unintended inventory accumulation. Yes, that's true as per the discussion we had earlier. And then it says national income will fall. Of course, when supply decreases, the income also drops. So that this one is true. So that is the answer for this question 26. Right, the fourth and the fifth, both these options say the opposite. I mean, in both these options, it says there is an unintended inventory reduction. No, if supply exceeds the demand, there is an inventory accumulation, not a reduction. And that's why the statements are wrong. Right. Look at this question 27 now. In question 27, it says, according to the quantity theory of money, a 10% increase in the nominal money supply will lead to which one of the following? All right. So before I get into the correct answer, I'll show you the meaning of this quantity theory of money. Look at this screen, everyone. Here we see this quantity theory of money. It says the quantity theory of money states if the velocity of money circulation and the real output remain constant, an increase in the money supply of the economy will make a direct proportional increase in the general price level. So if you look at this equation of exchange, how do we develop that thing? We write money supply into velocity of money circulation is equal to the price level into the real output. And in this equation of exchange, according to this quantity theory of money, right, when the velocity of money circulation and the real output, when these two remain constant, an increase in money supply, an increase in M will make a direct proportional increase in the general price level. So what does that mean? It simply means if money supply increases by 10%, even the price level increases by 10% if velocity and the real output remain constant. For another example, when those two remain constant, if money supply increases by 20%, even the price level increases by 20%. So that's the meaning. Right, now with that idea in mind, come to this question. Let me write the equation of exchange. Money supply into velocity equals price level into real output. When these two remain constant, 10% increase in money supply, right? So 10% increase in money supply will lead to a proportional increase in direct proportional increase in price level as well. So that even the price level will increase by 10%. So no point of looking at the other options as these are specific things. So the answer is this fourth one, 10% increase in the general price level. So that's the answer. Right. Question 28. There it says, assuming a country's national income is at the full employment level, which one of the following circumstances is most likely to cause inflation? All right. So before we look at the answers, let me just recognize this full employment level of national income. So let's assume this to be the aggregate supply. And right now, as per the data given in the question, this must be the aggregate demand. So the economy must be operating at this point, right? The economy must be operating at this point. So at this point, the real output is, let's say, YF, and the price level, let's say P1. And let me copy this graph and paste it here. Okay, now for the time being, you only need to look at this first graph. So to have this inflation, what needs to happen? The general price level should increase. In this economy, if the general price level increases, we recognize that situation as an inflation. So for this general price level to increase, what could happen? Imagine that this aggregate demand exceeds the level needed to maintain the full employment level of national income. So aggregate demand curve gets shifted to the right side. This is AD1 and this is AD2. And as a result, what happens? Nothing happens to the real output. It remains the same. But the price level increases to P2. It increases from P1 to P2. So if general price level has increased, we recognize that to be an inflation. So this is just one possible reason for this inflation to arise. So what happens here? The aggregate demand increases. That is just one thing. And look at the second curve now. According to the second curve, what if the aggregate supply decreases? If aggregate supply decreases, the aggregate supply curve gets shifted to the left side, and as a result, see, the price level again increases from P1 to P2, and even the real output decreases. So we don't need to look at the impact on real output for the time being. Let's focus on this axis, the price level axis. So the price level has increased, which means even here inflation is there in the economy. Even in this situation, inflation arises. එහෙනම් එතනදී මොකද උනේ? ඇයි inflation එකක් ආවේ economy එකේ? The aggregate supply, right? Aggregate supply decreases. එහෙනම් දැන් අපිට clear මොකද්ද? If the economy is operating at this full employment level of national income, and if one of these two things occur in the economy, right? Inflation arises. එහෙනම් වෙන්න ඕනි දේවල් දෙක මොකද්ද? එක්කෝ aggregate demand should increase, if not the aggregate supply should decrease. එහෙනම් අපිට දැන් මේ options පහක් දීලා තියෙනවා. options පහෙන් අපි තෝරගන්න ඕනේ මොන option එක නිසාද මේ aggregate demand එක increase වෙන්නේ? එහෙම නැත්නම් මොන option එක නිසාද aggregate supply එක decrease වෙන්නේ? ඔච්චරක් සරලයිනේ වැඩි. හරි. එහෙනම් දැන් අපි කියවලා බලමු කොයි එක නිසාද ওই දෙකෙන් එකක් වෙන්නේ කියලා. Right, the first one says a fall in interest rate. See that now interest rate. Then අපි මේක මාර විදියට කතා කරලා තියෙනවා. So we know this aggregate demand is equal to the aggregate expenditure, and it consists of these components C, I, G, and then N, X. Right, when interest rate decreases, money supply increases. When interest rate decreases, people have more money. People can borrow more money from the banks at lower interest rates so that they have higher spending capacity. So when they have a higher spending capacity, they spend the money for consumption and they make new investments. So when interest rate has decreased, consumption increases, even the investment increases, and as a result, what happens to the aggregate demand? Aggregate demand also increases. And when aggregate demand increases, as we discussed here, right, price level increases, which means in the economy we see inflation. Enisa, what's the answer for this question 28? The first one, right? This itself is the answer. But let me explain the other options as well. So let's see what happens from this second one. The second one says a rise in labor productivity. So labor productivity increases. When labor productivity increases, it influences on aggregate supply. So if productivity increases, the aggregate supply increases. As a result, the aggregate supply curve gets shifted to the right side, not to the left side. If not, aggregate supply increases. When demand remains constant, if aggregate supply increases, what happens? The price level decreases. And that's not inflation, right? That's not inflation. In NISI, we don't select the second one to be the answer. මොකද අපිට වෙන්න ඕනි aggregate supply එක අඩු වෙන එක. හැබැයි as a result of increasing labor productivity, aggregate supply increases so that there will not be any inflation in the economy. The third one, an appreciation of exchange rate. Now, what happens from an appreciation of exchange rate? What is an appreciation? If domestic currency get appreciated, if rupee get appreciated, this is how it will influence on aggregate demand. අපි මුලින්ම බලමු මෙහෙම. ඉස්සර $1 equals rupees 200, right? Just $1 equals rupees 200. But now, after the appreciation, $1 equals rupees 100. දැන් ඔයා හිතලා මට කියන්න, this appreciation is beneficial to the importer or to the exporter? කාටද මේකෙන් හොඳක් වෙන්නේ? importerටද නැත්නම් exporter? මේකෙන් ඇත්තටම හොඳක් වෙන්නේ importerට. මොකද්ද? importer තමයි හොඳක් වෙන්නේ. ඇයි? එයා කලින් චයිනා වලින් $1 worth product එකක් ලංකාවට import කළා. කලින්, right? කලින් import කළා $1 worth product එකක්. So he had to pay rupees 200 for that product, right? Because that was a ratio, $1 equals rupees 200. But now this same importer, right? The same importer is importing the same product simply by paying rupees 100. Now he pays only 100 rupees. So this is beneficial to the importer, right? The import price drops so that the importer get motivated and imports will increase, right? Imports will increase. Now on the other side, we have the exporter, right? We have the exporter here. Exporter, එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? මෙයා කලින් USA market එකට $1 එකක් වටින product එකක් export කළා. And he could earn, right? He could earn rupees 200 based on that previous exchange rate. But after the appreciation, when this exporter exports the same product to the same market, now he receives only rupees 100. After appreciation, he receives only 100. කලින් 200 හම්බුණා, but now he receives only 100. That's bad for the exporter. So the exporters get discouraged, demotivated, so that exports drops, right? Exports drop. එහෙනම් මොකද වෙන්නේ? If exports drop and if imports increase, then what තේරෙනවා? The impact on aggregate demand. ඇයි මම එහෙම කියන්නේ? Because you all know that this aggregate demand is equal to the aggregate expenditure, and it consists of these components C plus I plus G plus NX, and this NX, let me expand this time it in this way: exports minus imports, and from appreciation, export value decreases, import value, I mean this minus value increases, right? Minus value increases. So when the minus value increases, what happens to the aggregate demand? Even that decreases. When aggregate demand decreases, අපිට උවමනාදේ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපිට උවමනා මොකද්ද? Aggregate demand should go up for this inflation to arise in the economy. හැබැයි as a result of appreciation of the domestic currency, aggregate demand drops so that there won't be any inflation in the economy. So that's why the third one is not the answer. The fourth one says a rise in marginal propensity to import. See that now. If you look at this import function, right? If you look at the import function, let's say for example, initially it is 100 plus 0.1 into y. So right now, the marginal propensity to import is just 0.1, and that in the second situation, right, this has to be M. In the second situation, the marginal propensity to import this 0.1 increases to 0.9. So let's assume that the equation second, in the second situation, the equation is 100 plus 0.9 into y. Right, now let me just get a set of values and explain this scenario. Imagine that the national income is initially 100. So this is the situation 1, right? Situation 1 is 1. So in the first situation, when the national income is 100, the value of import, just put this 100 here for this y and solve the equation for m. How much you receive? 100 into 1.1 is just 10. So 100 plus 10 will be 110. But in the situation 2, again assume the national income is same 100. But this time, since there is an increase in this marginal propensity to import, when you put this 100 for this y in this equation, 100 into 0.9 is 90, and 100 plus that 90 will be 190. So what happens? When the marginal propensity to import, right, when the marginal propensity to import, when that increases, even the import value increases. And as per the discussion we had earlier, when imports, when that negative value inside this equation, when that negative value increases, what happens to the aggregate demand or the expenditure? It drops. හැබැයි අපිට වෙන්න ඕනේ inflation එකක් වෙන නම් aggregate demand should increase, but as a result of this increase in marginal propensity to import, aggregate demand drops. එහෙනම් there will not be any inflation in the economy for this reason. So we can select this to be the answer. The fifth one, an increase in the rates of personal income tax. See, ඒක හරිම සරල දෙයක්. ඒක හරියට මේ කලින් අපි කතා කරපු එක අනිත් පැත්ත වගේ. So aggregate demand is equal to the expenditure. So C plus I plus G plus NX. When the personal income tax increases, when that rate increases, people have less money to spend on consumption and to make investments. So when personal income taxes get increased, consumption drops, investment drops. As a result, even the aggregate demand drops. ඉතින් මේ තියෙන option 3, 4, 5 කියන තුනෙන්ම aggregate demand decreases. එනිසා there is no any inflation in the economy. Second option again, aggregate supply increase. So once again, there will not be any inflation. Now first one is the answer. Right. 29th question. In the 29th question, it says commercial banks can create money by. Okay. So let me explain it in this way. Money creation. Wait, I'll send all these to the other side. We can write money creation. This is commercial banks creating money. There are money creation. Money creation is equal to credit creation. Credit creation. Right? When more and more credit is created, the money supply increases, so more money get created in the economy. So ඔය දෙක සමානයි. සමානයි to a certain extent. හරිද? ඔය දෙක සමානයි. එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? මෙන්න මෙහෙම දෙයක් තමයි වෙන්නේ. එතකොට දැන් අහන්නේ commercial banks can create more money. එහෙම නැත්නම් commercial banks has the ability to create more credit from which one of the following reasons? ඕකනේ අහන්නේ. එතකොට ඕකට ආන්සර් එක අපි සිලෙක්ට් කරගන්නකොට මෙන්න මෙහෙම හිතමු. දැන් ඔයාලා බලන්න in the first one what happens? Converting reserves into securities. See that now? The commercial banks, right? Commercial banks. Imagine that in the initial situation, they had reserves of, let's say excess reserves of, right? Excess reserves. The commercial banks use excess reserves to create credit. එතකොට දැන් මෙතන මොකද වෙන්නේ? These excess reserves, they convert into securities. Excess reserves they convert into securities. They just put these excess reserves in the central bank as a security. And what happens to the ability of creating credit? If excess reserves get converted into securities in the central bank, right? The ability to create credit decreases. As a result, even the money creation drops, reduces. Inisa, that is not the answer. And the second one, buying treasury bills from the central bank. Again, the impact is same. I mean, on this side, let's say that we have the central bank, CBSL, Central Bank of Sri Lanka, right? So we have the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. On this side, we get the commercial banks, and the central bank sells treasury bills to the commercial banks so that the commercial banks buy treasury bills. So let me write the commercial banks. This is the first thing. We don't need that for the time being. Right. So commercial banks get the treasury bills. And for buying these treasury bills, they pass excess reserves to the central bank. අර කලින් කතන්දරේම තමයි securities වලට convert වෙනවා වගේම තමයි මෙතනදී excess reserves they just deposit in the central bank. හරිද? එහෙනම් reserves get transferred to central bank. එනිසා අර කතන්දරේම තමයි when the reserves get transferred to central bank, again their ability to create credit decreases and as a result money creation decreases. එනිසා මේ දෙකේම කියන්නේ එකම වගේ කතාවක්. Right. Look at the third one. In the third one, it says sending cash in hand to the central bank. So once again, same thing. Reserves get transferred to the central bank. ඒතර මේ first එකෙන් කියන කතන්දරේ, second එකෙන් කියන කතන්දරේ, තුන්වෙනි ඒ තුනෙන්ම වෙන්නේ මොකද්ද? Excess reserves get decreased so that their ability to create credit decreases so that the money creation decreases. The fourth one, maintaining 100% reserve requirement. See that now statutory reserve ratio is just 100%, which means they don't have any excess reserves. If there's no any excess reserves, again, it's impossible. See, I use the word impossible. It's impossible for the commercial banks to create credit. Then there's no money creation in that economy. ඔන්න ඒකත් අරහා සමානම කතන්දරයක්. එහෙනම් පස්වෙනි එක තමයි ඉතින් අනිවාර්යෙන් උත්තර වෙනවනේ. හැබැයි අපි ඒක කියවලා බලමු. Lending excess reserves to customers. See that now lending excess reserves means the commercial bank lends more and more money to the customers, which means the commercial bank engages in credit creation process. So when credit creation happens, as we discussed earlier, when credit creation happens, right? When credit creation increases, even the money creation increases. And we recognize this fifth one to be the answer for this question 29. Right. So I hope that you will understand these things. Right. So let me erase this part as well. All right. Look at this question 30 now. This says, suppose an individual withdraws rupees 10,000 from his deposit account, okay, in a commercial bank. If all else is constant, and the bank has a statutory reserve requirement of 20%, this transaction will directly reduce which one of the following? All right, so to recognize the answer for this, you will need to listen to this entire discussion. Okay, imagine that this is the customer, right? This is the customer. So this customer withdraws rupees 10,000. එතකොට මේක එයාගේ pocket එකට තමයි යන්නේ. හරිද? මෙයා මේක withdraw කළාම the money comes into his pocket from the commercial bank. එතකොට ඔන්න දැන් මේ තියෙන එයාගේ commercial bank එක. So this is the commercial bank of the customer. And now what will happen? The deposits, right? Deposits in this bank in this bank initially decreases by 10,000. Deposits get decreased by 10,000. හැබැයි අපි දන්න දේ තමයි when a customer comes and withdraws money from a commercial bank, එයාගේ commercial bank එකකින් මේ 10,000 deposits විදියට තියෙන 10,000 අඩු වෙලා වැඩේ නවතින්නේ නැහැ. දැන් මේකේ අනිත් පැත්ත තමයි if customer goes to a commercial bank and deposit rupees 10,000, we know that immediately what will happen, the deposits maintained by that particular commercial bank will increase by 10,000, and as a result there will be multiple deposits, right? There will be multiple deposits created in the entire commercial banking system. And in this situation what happens, the exact opposite happens. When one customer goes to the bank and withdraws money, immediately his deposits maintained in that particular bank will reduce by 10,000. There will be multiple contractions, right? There will be multiple contractions in the entire banking system. So let me write now banking system. In the banking system, what will happen to the demand deposits? Demand deposits. එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? අර initial withdrawal එක, let me write initial withdrawal. The initial withdrawal එක අපි දෙමු 10,000 කියලා. That into deposit multiply. ඔන්න ඔච්චරක් amount එකකින් banking system එකේ demand deposits මොනවා වෙනවද? අඩු වෙනවා. එහෙනම් initial withdrawal here is just 10,000, and that into the deposit multiplier, which is 1 over SRR. So 10,000 into 1 over 0.2, which is 10,000 into 5, so 50,000. Since this is a withdrawal, let me put minus values here, right? This is a withdrawal, so that the demand deposits will decrease by how much? 50,000. So let me write here, demand deposits will decrease by 50,000. So දැන් ඔයා බලනවා එහෙනම් මේ කලින් 10,000 මොකද කියලා. මේ කලින් 10,000 තමයි එයාගේ බැංක් එක. කස්ටමර්ගේ බැංක් එක. කස්ටමර්ගේ බැංක් එකෙන් immediately 10,000 අඩු වෙනවා. හැබැයි ඒක එතනින් නවතින්නේ නැහැ. This will create a multiple contractions in the entire banking system. එහෙම බලවට පස්සේ the total impact that has happened as a result of withdrawing this 10,000 is just 50,000 withdrawal. That's a 50,000 worth withdrawal from the entire banking system. Then මොකද වෙන්නේ? This influences on money supply as well, right? This influences on money supply as well. එතකොට if you look at this M1 money supply, M1 consists of currency held by the general public plus demand deposits, right? Demand deposits in the entire banking system. So as a result of this withdrawal of 10,000, මම මෙතනදී කිව්වා මේ බැංක් එකෙන් සල්ලි මෙයාගේ සාක්කුවට තමයි transfer වෙන්නේ. එහෙම transfer වුණාට පස්සේ currency held by the general public will increase. Currency held by the general public will increase by 10,000. But as a result, the demand deposits in commercial banks will decrease by how much? That will decrease by 50,000 as we discussed earlier. So that the impact on money supply is minus 40,000, right? And our money supply decreases by how much? 40,000. එතන මෙන්න මේ දේවල් තමයි අතර මේ ඉකොනොමි එකේ වෙන්නේ. හොඳයි. එහෙනම් පළවෙනි දේ තමයි මම ආයමත් කිව්වොත් සල්ලි මෙයාගේ පොකට් එකට එනවා 10,000. ඊට පස්සේ immediately what happens, the demand deposits in his commercial bank decreases by 10,000, and demand deposits of the entire banking system decreases by 50,000, and the money supply decreases by 40,000. හොඳයි. දැන් ඔයා මේ question එකට ගියොත් එහෙම, in this question it says again, suppose an individual withdraws rupees 10,000 from his deposit account in a commercial bank. If all else is constant and the bank has a statutory reserve requirement of 20%, this transaction will directly reduce. Okay, see the now they have used the word will directly reduce. Directly. So now from this entire discussion, right, I just recognize this outcome to be the direct outcome. This is the direct outcome. If not, this is what immediately happens, and this is the indirect result. Right? On this side of the table, you see the indirect result. දැන් මිනිස්සයා හිතන්නේ මේ දේවල්. මිනිස්සයා දන්නවා එයා 10,000 ගත්තා, මෙයාගේ බැංකියෙන් 10,000 අඩු වෙලා මගේ සාකුවට 10,000 එනවා. හැබැයි එයා හිතන්නේ යන්නේ නැහැ මොකද වෙන්නේ බැංකින් සිස්ටම් එකට මොකද වෙන්නේ මනි සප්ලයි එකට ඕවා එයා හිතන්නේ නැහැ. එයා කරන්නේ එයාගේ සල්ලි ටික අරගෙන යනවා බැංකුවෙන්. එතකොට this is the direct outcome and this is the indirect outcome. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා directly මොකද වෙන්නේ? direct reduction එකනේ අහන්නේ. Direct reduction is the demand deposits maintained by his commercial bank will decrease by 10,000. ඕක තමයි answer. See, this transaction will directly reduce bank deposits, not the deposits in the entire banking system. The bank deposit of his commercial bank will decrease by 10,000 and that's the answer. Right? That's the answer. එතන අපි නිකමට හිතමු දැන් මම මේ මුළු ඩිස්කෂන් එකම කරපු නිසා අපි නිකමට හිතමු ඇත්තටම මේ වචනේ මෙතන දුන්නේ නැහැ කියලා this transaction will impact which one of the impact on which one of the following කියලා වගේ නිකන් අහුවොත් එහෙම ඔයාලා හිතන්නේ මේ අනිත් ආන්සර්ස් ගැන මොකද money supply reduces by 10,000 money supply reduces by 10,000 නැත්නම් වෙන ඉලක්කමකින්ද see money supply reduces by 40,000 so 10,000 is wrong. Third one, money supply reduces by 50,000. No, money supply reduces by again 40,000, not by 50,000. Bank deposits by 50,000. Ne, bank deposits get decreased by 10,000. 50,000 නෙමෙයි. එහෙනම් එක. ඊට පස්සේ bank deposits by 8,000. ඒක කවදාවත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඉතින් දැන් ඔයාලට මම මේ full story එක කියලා දුන්නා. කියලා දීලා මම ආයෙමත් ඔයාලට මේ question එකට related answer එක විදිහට පෙන්නනොත් එහෙම question එක යහන්නේ this will directly reduce in the direct impact goes to his own commercial bank so that the bank deposits just decreases by 10,000 ඕක තමයි වෙන්නේ. Right. Question 31. Sri Lankan commercial banks maintain their statutory reserves in the form of මේවා ඇවිල්ලා theoretical දේවල්. එතකොට මේවා අපිට වෙනස් කරන්න ඔයාලට වෙනස් කරන්න මොකුත් බෑ. So let me show you the note. Statutory reserve ratio, and under that you have this paragraph, and here you have written the statutory reserve ratio, the equation of calculating that thing, and below that you have several points. And look at the second point. The second point says a commercial bank can maintain their statutory reserve in the form of cash in hand or as the deposits in central bank. ඉතින් theoretical දේවල් ඔයිට වඩා ඔක වෙනස් කරන්න බෑ කාටවත්. එක්කෝ they just maintain, I mean the commercial banks maintain this statutory reserve in the form of cash in hand. If not, they can just maintain it as a deposit in the central bank. එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ දෙකම කරගෙන යන්න පුළුවන්. ටිකක් cash in hand, තව ටිකක් as a deposit in the central bank. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා ආන්සර් එක වෙන්නේ මොකක්ද? තියෙනවා වෙන්න ඕනි, ආන්සර් එක වෙන්න ඕනි in the form of cash in hand and deposits at the central bank. ඔච්චරයි. ඔයිට වඩා දේවල් නැහැ. ඒ නිසා no point of discussing the other answers here. So answer for this question 31 is the first one. Right, now look at this question 32. In question 32, it says, if the central bank purchases treasury bills from a commercial bank, what happens to the bank reserves and the money supply? ඉතින් අපි මේවා අතරම කතා කරපු දේවල් දැන් කලින් එකෙත් මේවා කතා කළා. So we have the Central Bank of Sri Lanka on this side, and on this side we get the commercial banks. ඊට පස්සේ මොකද වෙන්නේ? Central Bank purchases treasury bills. Okay, see, this time commercial banks sell treasury bills to the central bank, and in return central bank provides money, cash to the commercial banks. So what will happen to the reserves maintained inside the bank? When the commercial bank receives cash, their cash reserves will definitely increase. When cash reserves get increased, their ability to create credit, their ability to create credit also increases. When more and more credit is created, money supply also increases, right? Money supply also increases. ඉතින් ඔච්චරයි ඔච්චරක් සරලයි මේ දේවල්. එහෙනම් උත්තරේ වෙන්න ඕනි මොකක්ද? Bank reserves will increase, so either this or maybe this, and even the money supply should increase. In isa answer for this question 32 must be the second one, right? Second one is the answer. Right. Then අපි යනවා question 33 වලට. In question 33 it says a good that exhibits neither rivalry nor excludability in consumption cannot be. See that now? එතකොට මේ දෙකම ඒ කියන්නේ a good that exhibits neither rivalry, so no rivalry nor excludability. ඒ කියන්නේ non excludability. So a good that exhibits neither rivalry nor excludability in consumption cannot be. So these are the qualities of public goods, and they can't be the qualities of a pure private good. So simple as that. Right? So these can't be the qualities of a pure private good. එහෙනම් ඒක තමයි answer එක, but අනිත් ඒවාත් මම කරන්නම් discuss කරන්න. Pure public good, no, they can be pure public goods. So these are the main two qualities of a pure public good. එතන global public goods කියලා කිව්වම that is also another form of pure public good. එතන මේ දෙකම ඇත්තටම මේ දෙකේම අර කියන qualities තියෙනවා. එතන මේවා වෙන්න පුළුවන් දේ. ඊළඟට quasi public good. Quasi public good නේ. දැන් නමේම පේනවනේ that is also part of public good, a different form of public good. ඒතර ඒවා ඇවිල්ලා අපි ඇත්තටම කතා කරලා තියෙමු these are non rivalry but they can be ඒ කියන්නේ excludable. ඒතර excludability කියන එක මෙතන නැහැ. sorry ඒ කියන්නේ non excludability කියන එක මෙතන නැහැ. excludability තමයි තියෙන්නේ. excludability. හැබැයි අර non rivalry කියන එක තාමත් තියෙනවා. මොකද හේතුව this is also a different form of public good. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා මේ ඔක්කොම ඒ කියන්නේ second එක ගත්තත්, ඔයා fourth එක ගත්තත්, fifth එක ගත්තත්, those are different forms of public goods. So public goods have these qualities, at least one of these qualities. එතකොට මේ inferior good කියන එක මම ඇයි skip කළේ? See that now, that's a different classification. ඒ කියන්නේ based on the features, based on these features, rivalry or excludability, we don't classify goods as inferior or normal, right? So this goes under a different criteria. So if the person's income, right, if the person's income increases and if demand decreases, then we recognize those goods to be inferior. එතකොට ඒවා public ද private ද quasi ද ඒවා දාලා නැහැ. එතනදී අපි අදාළ කරගන්න එකම criteria එක තමයි what happens to the demand if income increases. එතන that goes under a different classification. නිසා this part is not relevant here. එතන ඒක ignore කරන්න පුළුවන්. So when you ignore that thing, the second option, the fourth option, the fifth option talk about the public goods or a different form of public good. එතන ඒවායේ මේ කියන qualities එක්ක දෙකම තියෙනවා නැත්නම් එකක් තියෙනවා. හැබැයි මේ private goods වල මේ කියන qualities දෙකම නැහැ. ඒ නිසා that is the answer for this question 33. Right. 34th question. Look at this. 34th one says, when a regressive income tax is in operation, the poor pay. Okay, if the taxation is regressive, what does that mean? It simply means when the tax base, right, when the tax base increases, the tax rate, right, the tax rate decreases. Simple. You know, for example, if the tax base is the person's income, when income increases, if the person's tax rate decreases, we recognize that to be a regressive tax. Right? We recognize that to be a regressive tax. එතන මොනවද මේ කියන options වල තියෙන්නේ? අපි තෝරගන්නනේ the poor pay පළවෙනි එක a lower percentage of their income tax than the rich. Lower percentage of their income tax as than the rich. ඒතර අපි බලමු. Right? Imagine that we have a person who's earning rupees, let's say 100,000. එහෙමම poor නෑ, but let's say 100,000. Right? The person is earning rupees 100,000. And this is the tax base there, the income, right? Tax base is 100,000. And when the tax base is 100,000, let's assume this tax rate to be 10%. එතකොට amount of tax, අපි මේ පැත්ත බලුවොත් එහෙම amount of tax that this person pays. How much he pays as a tax? Rupees 10,000. And now think about another person who is earning, අපි ලොකු ඉලක්කමක් ගන්න නැතුව අපි shape එක අපි ගමුකෝ 200,000, who's earning 200,000. එතන මෙයා 200,000 earn කරනවා නම් the tax rate මොකක්ද වෙන්න ඕනි? The tax rate should decrease. Right? The tax rate should decrease. අපි හිතමු දැන් මෙයාගෙන් earn කරන්නේ මෙයාගෙන් ගන්නේ government එක ගන්නේ a tax of 9%. හරි. If a tax of 9% is charged from this person, then the amount of tax that he pays will be 18,000. ඔක තමයි දැන් කතන්දරේ. දැන් ඔය ටික ඔළුවේ තියාගෙන we will look at all these options. Right. The first option says when a regressive income tax is in operation, the poor pay lower percentage of their income taxes than the rich. The percentage, look at the percentage of the tax that the poor people pay. ඒගොල්ලෝ තමයි higher percentage එකක් ගෙවන්නේ than the rich. ඒතර මේක කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? They pay, I mean the poor pay a lower percentage. No, it has to be the opposite. ඒ නිසා මේ කතන්දරේ වැරදි. Right? The poor people pay a higher percentage of their income as taxes. So that's wrong. The second one says a larger rupee amount in taxes than the rich. Then අපි බලමු whether the poor people pay a larger rupee amount in taxes than rich. හරි. Then මෙයාගෙන් charge කරන tax එක poor කෙනාගෙන් charge කරන tax එක if it is just 10%, then that person pays a tax of 10,000. එතකොට දැන් ඔයාට හිතෙන්න පුළුවන් හරිද මේක දිහා බලලා එතකොට ඔයාට හිතෙන්න පුළුවන් මේ කියන කතන්දරේ වැරදි. මොකද in my example the poor person pays a larger rupee amount in taxes නෙමෙයි. එයා ගෙවන ඇතරම පොඩි amount එක. 10,000 තමයි එයා ගෙවන්නේ. ඉතින් ඒක මෙහෙමයි. ඒක වෙන්නේ මේ මං අරගෙන තියෙන mathematical values එක්ක. දැන් අපි හිතමුකෝ මෙහෙම කතන්දරයක්. අපි හිතමු දැන් වෙන්න ඕනේ දේ තමයි when the tax base increases the tax rate should decrease. ඒතර මම ඇත්තටම decrease එකට ගත්තේ 9% කියලා. ඉතින් 10% වලට වඩා අඩු ඕන value එකක් මට එතනට ගන්න තිබ්බා. හරිද? එහෙම ගන්න තිබ්බා. දැන් මට 5% ගන්නක් තිබුණා. නැත්නම් මට 1% ගන්නක් තිබුණා. මම මේ තුනෙන් කොයික ගත්තත් වෙන්නේ එකම දේනේ. මේ තුනෙන් කොයික ගත්තත් වෙන්නේ එකම දේ. මම එකම දේ කියන එක mean කරන්නේ still the rich one pays a lower tax rate compared to the tax rate paid by the poor person. ඉතින් දැන් 9% base කරගෙන තමයි 18,000 ආවේ. But what if I use this tax rate as 5% and calculate the amount of tax? How much will be that? then it will be just 10,000. බලන්න එතකොට the rich and the poor they both pay the same amount as the tax. එතන 1% ගත්තොත් එහෙම 1% ගත්තොත් එහෙම ඉතින් ඔයාලට කතන්දරේ තේරෙන 1% ගත්තොත් එහෙම අරකින් පහින් එකයි ඒ කියන්නේ just 2000 තමයි pay කරන්නේ. එතකොට දැක්කද? The rich person pays rupees 2000. එතකොට අර poor person pays tax of 10,000. ඉතින් එහෙම බැලුවොත් එහෙම මේක 1% rate එකෙන් බැලුවොත් එතන මේ කියන කතාව හරි. A larger rupee amount in taxes. Again, the poor person pays a larger rupee amount in taxes than the rich. See, if you compare 10,000 with 2,000, of course, that is true. හැබැයි ඒක absolute truth එකක් නෙමෙයි. මොකද හේතුව it depends on the tax percentage that I consider. If it is just 1%, of course, the rich person pays a lower amount and the poor person pays a larger tax amount. But if the tax rate is just 5%, then the rich person and the poor pay the same amount as the tax. But if I consider that tax rate to be just 9%, then the poor person pays a lower tax than the rich person. So it depends on the tax rate. එනිසා ඒක absolute truth එකක් නෙවන නිසා we can't select this to be the answer. And then the third one says, when a regressive income tax is in operation, the poor pay a tax that varies proportionately with their income level. නෑ එහෙමනම් we never recognize that to be a regressive tax system. Then that will be a proportionate tax. ඒ කියන්නේ it doesn't matter how much is your tax base, it doesn't matter how much is your income, you always pay 10%. Right? You always pay 10%. එහෙමනම් ඔයාගේ අර tax amount එක proportionately තමයි හැමතිස්සෙම වැඩි වෙන්නේ. දැන් ඔයාගේ income එක, right, when the tax base, let's say that the income is 100,000, income is 100,000, so when you pay 10% on that, your tax amount is 10,000. And when your income increases by twofold, you again pay a tax of 10%, so even the tax amount get increased by twofold. The tax varies proportionately to the income. එහෙම වෙන්නේ only in proportional taxes, not in regressive taxes. So this is also wrong. The fourth one, a smaller rupee amount in taxes than the rich. අරකේ opposite කියලා එක තේරෙනවා නේද ඔයාලට? දැන් මෙතන කියනවා a larger rupee amount in taxes than the rich. මෙතන කියනවා a smaller rupee amount in taxes than the rich. See, my comment is again the same. It depends on the tax rate that we select. ඒක අපිට හරියට මෙහෙම කියන්න බෑ. එතකොට fourth එක true if the tax rate is 9%. Second is true if the tax rate is 1%. So it changes on the tax rate. එනිසා ඒ දෙකම answers වෙන්න බෑ. The fifth one says a higher percentage of their income in taxes than the rich. See, the percentage of income that they pay as tax, ඒක හරියටම හරිනේ. මොකද්ද? මේ situations තුනේම I have taken 3 different percentages. ඒ percentages තුනම අර poor කෙනා ගෙවන percentage එකට වඩා අඩුයි. ඒ නිසා අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් මෙන්න මෙහෙම කතාවක්. මොකද්ද? In regressive income tax, the poor pay a higher percentage of the income in taxes than the rich. That is always true, and that's why we recognize, we label that as a regressive tax. Simple as that. Right, look at this question 35 now. The marginal social cost of allowing one more individual to use a pure public good. හරි. ඒතර marginal කියලා කියන්නේ one more කියන එකනේ. ඒක දැන් හැමෝම දන්නවනේ. එතකොට අපි ඕකනේ හැමතිස්සෙම ක්ලාස් එකේ කියන්නේ marginal equals always one more. එතකොට the social cost of one more individual consuming a pure public good is, okay, ඔයා හිතන්න ඕනේ මෙන්න මෙච්චරයි. ඔයා හිතන්න ඕන, imagine that there is this street light, right? This is a light. The light එක පත් වෙලා තමයි තියෙන්නේ. ඔයාලට තේරෙන සීන්. right, light එක පත් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒතර මේක යටින් එක මිනිහෙක් යනවා. මේ street lamp එක යටින් එක මිනිහෙක් යනවා. දැන් ලයිට් එක පත් වෙලා තියෙන. ඉතින් හවස 7ට මේක පටන් ගත්තට පස්සේ උදේ 6 විතර වෙනකන් කවුරු හරි ඕෆ් කරනකම් මේක ඉතින් ෆුල් ඔන්. එහෙමනේ සිද්ධිය. එතකොට මේකට එක මිනිස්සෙක් කරනවා. දැන් උදේ 6 හවස 7 ඉඳලා උදේ 6 වෙනකන් මේ ස්ට්‍රීට් ලෑම්ප් එක ඔන් කරලා තියෙන යම්කිසි කොස්ට් එකක් ගවර්න්මන්ට් එක දරනවනේ. ඒතර මේක ඇතුලෙන් මේක යටින් එක මිනිස්සෙක් ගියා. දැන් තව මිනිස්සෙක් යනවා. එතන එතන ඒ මිනිස්සයා මෙතනින් ගියා කියලා ගවර්න්මන්ට් එක එක්ස්ට්‍රා කොස්ට් එකක් දානවාද? මේක යටින් තව මිනිස්සෙක් ගියොත් එහෙම ගවර්න්මන්ට් එක ඒ මිනිස්සයා වෙනුවෙන් කියලා එක්ස්ට්‍රා කොස්ට් එකක් දානවද නෑ? light is always on from 7 pm to 6 am. එතන මේක යටින් මිනිස්සෙක් නොගියත් that cost is there. එතන මිනිස්සු 100ක් ගියත් the same cost, 101ක් ගියත් the same cost. The cost won't change. ඒ නිසා මොකද වෙන්නේ? The marginal cost of allowing one more individual to use a pure public good is always zero. ඒතර එක විදියකට ඔයාලට එහෙම හිතන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම නැත්නම් you just look at the theory part related to this. ඔයාලට ඒක මතක තිබුණාත් you can get the correct answer. So let me show you the theory part related to this. Right, look at this note now. This is the note related to different types of goods in a market economy. So we have pure public goods. එතකොට there I have mentioned that these are the goods with the following two characteristics, non-rivalry and non-excludability. So under non-rivalry, you have a note, and below that you have this sentence. Look at this one. Additionally, the producer does not incur additional cost when these goods are consumed by an additional individual. Within brackets, I have written zero marginal cost. So if you remember the theoretical parts, then again you can select the answer for this question 35 very easily. ඉතින් ඔහොම තමයි answer ගන්න ඕනේ. Right. Now let's move to this question 36. Right. එතකොට 36 එකේ මොනවද කියන්නේ? Look at this one. The table below shows the marginal private and the external benefits, and the marginal private and the external costs of a product produced at a free market equilibrium level of output. Okay, so if you look at the values on this side, you get the benefits, and on the other side, we get the costs. Hari, Dila Metika, what do they ask us to find? The government intervention in this market could improve the efficiency of allocation of resources because the product is, okay, you just need to recognize whether this product is a public good, a global public good, merit inferior or demerit good. මේමයි values දෙන හැමතැනකම අපි මොනවා හරි ඉලක්කණ්ඩ එකතු කරන්න අඩු කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා සිද්ධියක් නැහැ. ඔයා ඇත්තටම හොඳ සිහියෙන් මේවා බලනවා නම් ඔයාලට හරියම ලේසියෙන් මේකේ ආන්සර් තෝරගන්න පුළුවන්. කොහොමද? දැන් ඔයා හිතනක මෙහෙම look at this benefits side. So there are private benefits. Right? There are private benefits. We don't care about the value. We only see whether there are private benefits or not. Okay, there are private benefits. And at the same time, there are external benefits. See that now. When somebody consumes this thing, even a third party get benefited. එතන එතන value එක කීයද? ඒක 18 උනත්, ඒක 1 උනත්, ඒක positive value එකක් නම් එච්චරයි. Right? ඒකෙන් අදහස් කරන්නේ if this is a positive value, ඒකෙන් අදහස් කරන්නේ when somebody consumes this good, even a third party get benefited. හරිද? එහෙනම් මේ good එක අනිවාර්යෙන් මොන good එකක් වෙනවද? there are අපි ඒකට පොඩක් theoretically මොනවා හරි කිව්වොත් අපි කියන්නේ there are external positive externalities in consumption also. I think there are positive externalities in consumption. There are positive externalities in consumption. ඊට පස්සේ ඔයා බැලුවොත් එහෙම cost එක පැත්තෙන් බැලුවොත් එහෙම we have private cost and you don't have any negative externality in production. මොකද දැන් මේක 0 නේ. The external cost is 0. So there are no any negative externalities in production. We only have positive externalities in consumption. So if a good has positive externalities in consumption, how do we recognize those goods? We recognize them as merit goods. So no point of discussing these other options. ඉතින් ඔයාලට ඔය ටික තේරෙනවා උච්චරක් සරල දෙයක් තේරෙනවා නම් you can simply put the answer. අනිත් ඒවා කියවල වැඩක් නැහැ. right? අනිත් ඒවා කියවල වැඩක් නැහැ. හොඳයි. ඊට පස්සේ 37. Which one of the following methods of financing the budget deficit can increase the aggregate demand by the greatest amount? Okay. එතකොට මේ aggregate demand එකට මොකද වෙන්නේ ඉකොනොමි එකේ තියෙන සමහර macro economic variables වෙනස් වුණාම කියන එක මේ papers වල එකපාරක් නෙමෙයි දෙපාරක් නෙමෙයි ඉතින් සෑහෙන පාරක් එකම paper එකේ තියෙන දැන් මේ තුන්වෙනි වගේ ප්‍රශ්නේ ඉතින් අහන දේවල් ඒවා මේ වෙනකොට ඇත්තටම ටිකක් නෙමෙයි ගොඩක් හොඳට පුළුවන් වෙලා තියෙනනේ මොකද හැම paper එකම වගේ මේ දේවල් අහන නිසා. හොඳයි so let me show you how to select the correct answer. right, selling bonds to foreigners. දැන් selling bonds to foreigners දැන් මෙහෙමයි මේ සමහර දේවල් ඇතුළේ අපි හිතනවට වඩා දේවල් තියෙනවා සමහර ඒවා ඇතුළේ හිතන තරම් දේකුත් නැති වෙලාවලුත් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ තමයි දැන් මේකේ වා හිතනෝනේ මෙන්න මෙහෙමයි. The government is trying to finance the budget deficit by selling bonds to foreigners. ඒ කියන්නේ the foreigners purchase our treasury bills and treasury bonds, especially treasury bonds. then bonds කියන කතාව නේතර bills නෙමෙයි bonds. එතකොට what happens we receive foreign currencies, right? We receive foreign currencies, but we can't utilize those foreign currencies in their exact same form, so we will need to convert them into rupees. එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? ඔන්න බලන්න මම එක මෙතනම ලියලා පෙන්නන්න. එතකොට aggregate demand is equal to aggregate expenditure and it has these components C plus I plus G plus NX. So NX මම මෙහෙම ලියන්න x minus m. හරි. දැන් when we receive more and more foreign currencies මොකද වෙන්නේ? Imagine this is the quantity of dollars and this is the price of a dollar in rupees. This is the price of a dollar in rupees. එතකොට මේ තියෙන්නේ this is the dollar demand and this is the dollar supply. Right? Dollar supply. So is dollar supply. So when foreigners purchase more and more bonds from Sri Lanka, dollar supply increases. So when dollar supply increases, the supply curve gets shifted to the right side. Alright, the supply curve gets shifted to the right side. What happens to the price of a rupee in dollars? මේක අපි තුමු 1000 එක අපිට ඇත්තම වැඩක් නැහැ. කලින් value එක $1 equals 200, but now $1 equals rupees 200. So we see an appreciation of, right? What do we see? An appreciation of domestic currency. when appreciation happens, අපි කලිනුත් කතා කළා when appreciation happens, imports get increased. මොකද ඒක import ට හොඳයි. And when appreciation happens, export get decreased. Imports increase වෙනවා, exports decrease වෙනවා. ඔයාට එහෙම වෙන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා තව දැනගන්න කැමති නම් අර අපි කලින් කතා කරපු question එක බලන්න. ඉතින් ඒකෙදි අපි මේකම තමයි කතා කළේ under appreciation. හොඳයි. ඊට පස්සේ imports වැඩි වෙන නිසාම even the consumption increases. මොකද the imported goods become much more cheaper in the market, so the consumption of imported goods may go up. හරි. See, that is the impact on aggregate demand. එතකොට වැඩි වෙන components දෙකක් තියෙනවා. C and M get increased, but X get decreased. එතකොට වැඩි වෙන components දෙකයි අඩු වෙන component එකයි තියෙන්නේ. Right. Now let's look at the second one. Selling bonds to the central banks. Now the government sells treasury bonds to the central bank. Then central bank එක ළඟ cash deposits නැහැනේ. ඒ කියන්නේ නිකන් commercial bank එක වගේ demand deposits නම් maintain කරන සිද්ධියක් නැහැනේ. ඒ නිසා if the government sells these bonds to the central bank, what does the central bank do? They will create money. I mean, they will print money and they will purchase these bonds from the government. එතකොට as a result of printing money, as a result of creating money, what will happen to this aggregate demand? අපි ආයෙමත් බලමු. මම එක වෙන පෑනකින් ලියා ගන්නම්. So we can write now. This time aggregate demand is once again equal to the expenditure, which is C plus I plus G plus, let's say, NX simply. So this is G plus NX. එතකොට see, the government receives new money from the central bank, right? The government receives new money from the central bank. එතකොට what happens? The government needs to release this newly received money to the general public. එතකොට how do they transfer this money? I mean, how does the government transfer this money to the general public? Maybe through their investment projects. එහෙම නැත්නම් government purchases විදියට මේක කොහොම හරි general public එකට එළියට දානවා. එතකොට what will happen to the money supply in that economy? The money supply increases. When the money supply increases, interest rates reduce. When interest rates reduce, C increases, even I increases. එතකොට කලින් උනේ මොකද්ද? C increase වුණා, M increase වුණා. හැබැයි M is a negative value. ඒතර X අඩු වුණා. ඒතර ඇත්තටම එකකින් වෙන impact එක AD වැඩි වෙන්න බලපාන එක හරිම චූටි දෙයක් වෙලා තියෙනවා. හැබැයි මෙතනදී එහෙම නෙමෙයි. C increases, I increases, G increases. තුනක් වැඩි වෙනවා. Right? So that is the second one. And the third one අපි ආයමත් වෙන පැනල ලියමු. E equals C plus I plus G plus NX. එතන මොකද මෙතන වෙන්නේ? The government sells bonds to the commercial banks. අන්න. දැන් central bank වගේ නෙමෙයි. The commercial banks have their excess reserves. එතන මොකද වෙන්නේ? The commercial banks use these excess reserves to purchase the government bonds. එතකොට හොඳට අහගන්න වෙන දේවල් ටික. එතකොට වෙන්නේ the excess reserves get transferred to the government, right? So that the bank's ability to create credit decreases. සහ private මිනිස්සෙක් loan එකක් ගන්න bank එකට ගියාම තියෙන තරම් සල්ලි ඔක්කොම ටික government එකට already pass වෙලා නිසා අර private මිනිස්සයාට investorට bank එකෙන් loan එකක් දෙන්නේ තියෙන චූටි reserve එකේ සහ ඒකටත් ඒගොල්ලෝ ලොකු interest එකක් charge කරනවා. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා private මිනිස්සු වැඩි වැඩියෙන් loans අරගෙන investments කරන්නේ නැහැ. ඒතර investment decreases, even the consumption decreases. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා ඇත්තටම ඒකින් වෙන්නේ aggregate demand එක මෙන්න මේ කියන components වලින් අඩු වෙන එක. ඊළඟට selling bonds to the National Savings Bank. The fifth one, selling bonds to the Employees Provident Fund. එතන මේ වෙලාව තනිකරම savings. දැන් National Savings Bank is not a commercial bank. So they don't have this money creation නැත්නම් credit creation ability. They don't have that ability. එතන මේ දෙකම ඇත්තටම එකම basket එකකට දාලා කතා කරන්න පුළුවන්. එතන what happens when the savings get passed, when the savings get transferred to the government, මෙන්න මේ national savings get decreased. When national savings get decreased, how does that affect to the aggregate demand? C plus I plus G plus NX. When savings get decreased, we don't have enough money to make investments. When savings get increased, investment decreases, and AD also decreases. It is නිසා දැන් බැලුවට පස්සේ from which one of these options the aggregate demand increases by the greatest amount? මේ බලන්න මෙතනදී components තුනකින්ම මේක වැඩි වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. So that the answer for this question 37 is the second one. Right? That is the second one. Look at this question 38 now. In question 38, it says, consider the following table. And we get the table year 1, year 2, year 3, export price index, terms of trade. මෙහෙම I think මේක දැක්ක ගමන් ඔයාලා තේරෙනවා අපිට හදාගන්න වෙන්නේ තව එකම එක චූටි කොලම් එකක්. මොකද්ද? We can find ඕනද නැද්ද කියන එක දන්නේ නැහැ. නමුත් හදන්න පුළුවන් එච්චරයි. ඉතින් ඒක හදන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඉතින් shape එකේ හදාගන්න import price index අනිවාර්යෙන් ඉතින් ඕන වෙනවනේ. මොකද මේ scope එක ඇතුලේ තමයි මේ options ඔක්කොම දීලා තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා to find the import price index what do we do? පොඩ්ඩක් අපි ලියලා බලුවොත් terms of trade is equal to export price index divided by import price index and we multiply this by 100. Simple as that. So terms of trade in, for example, in the first year, terms of trade is 100. Export price index is also 100. So import price index කොහොමද කරන්න ඕන අපි? අපි ඒක subject කළොත් we get the import price index is equal to export price index 100 divided by the terms of trade multiplied by 100. ඔච්චරයි equation එක. නැත්නම් ඉලක්කම් නැතුව මම ඕක ලියලා පෙන්නනවා. දැන් මෙතන මේ 100 දෙකක් තියෙන නිසා පොඩ්ඩක් අප්සෙට් වගේ. ඒ නිසා if I subject import price index from this import price index, right? If I subject that, වෙන්නේ මෙච්චරයි. I take the export price index, I divide it by terms of trade and I multiply that by 100. Simple as that. දැන් ඉතින් ඔය අවුරුදු තුනම ඔච්චරයි කරන්න තියෙන්නේ. එහෙනම් export price index is 100, that is divided by the terms of trade, even that is 100, and multiply that by again 100, so that the answer is 100. Simple. The next one, export price index, right? Export price index. So export price index in the second year is 90, that is divided by the terms of trade, which is 80, and multiply that by 100, so that the import price index is, let's see, 90 divided by 80 into 100, that will be 112.5. 112.5. And in the third year, export price index is 80, that is divided by the terms of trade, which is 60, multiplied by 100. එතකොට that is 80 over 60 into 100, 133.33, right? We get 133.33. Okay, ඔය ටික තියෙනවා නම් you can find the answer for this. From this data, one possible conclusion that can be drawn over the period is export prices were rising. ඉතින් ඔයාලට බලන්න පුළුවන් export price index එක දිහා බලනකොට මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? They have decreased gradually. ඒ නිසා මේ කියන කතාව තනිකර බොරු. The second one, import prices were rising. බලන්න අපි හොයාගත්ත එක. ඉතින් හොයාගත්ත නිසා අපිට තේරෙනවා yes, the import price index has increased gradually. ඒ නිසා import prices have increased. That's true. Third one, there was an improvement in terms of improvement එකක්ද මේ තියෙන්නේ. This is just a reduction in terms of trade. Right? That is a reduction of terms of trade. So that is wrong. More imports could be purchased with the same quantity of exports. එහෙම වෙන්නේ නැහැ මොකද the terms of trade has decreased. So this is also wrong. Increase in export prices was greater than the increase in import prices. ඉතින් ඔයාලට තේරෙනවනේ මේකෙදි විතරයි මේ දෙන්නම equal වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. But in the second year, export price is 90, but the import price is 112. So import price is greater. Even in the third year, export price is 80, but import price is 133. So the opposite of this is true, not this. And so this is wrong. Right? That is wrong then. And our answer for this question 38 is the second one. Right. Now, come to this question 39. In question 39, it says, which one of the following is correct of a country that does not have an absolute advantage in producing any good or service? And on the first one, it cannot have a comparative advantage either. මම නිකමට කියන්නේ ඔයාලා අපි කරපු theory notes බලන්න. ඒ theory notes වල අන්තිම ගාන අපි හදපු අන්තිම ගානේ ඒකේ absolute advantage ඒ කියන්නේ කිසිම product එකකට absolute advantage එකක් නැති country එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා ඒ note එක අපි කියනවා so that the countries cannot engage in international trade based on the absolute advantage principle. මොකද එක country එකකට ඒ කිසිම product එකකට absolute advantage නැහැ. ඒ නිසාම we move to the other approach, comparative advantage approach, and there we just find the lowest opportunity cost for each product, for each country, and then we recognize a country with the lowest opportunity cost of producing that product. We recognize that to be the country with the comparative advantage of producing that product. In its absolute advantage නැති වුණාට the countries can have comparative advantage. මම ඔයාලට ඕක ඉතාම සරලව කියලා දුන්නොත්, කියන්නේ ඉතාම සරලව පෙන්නුවොත් කියලා දුන්නටත් වඩා හරි වචනේ පෙන්නුවොත් මෙන්න මෙච්චරයි. අපි හිතමු මෙහෙම on this axis we take absolute advantage. On this axis we take the absolute advantage, and on the other axis let me take comparative advantage, and that is in red color, right? Comparative advantage. There are possible scenarios when a country may not have absolute advantage for producing a particular good, and that same country may not have, right? The same country may not have even the comparative advantage for producing that good. So that is just one possible scenario. The other possible scenario is a country may have absolute advantage in producing a particular product, right? May have the absolute advantage in producing a particular product, but that country may not have the comparative advantage in producing that same good. එක possible there. ඊට පස්සේ අනිත් පැත්තෙන් අපි බලුවාම a country may not have the absolute advantage in producing that good, but that country may have the comparative advantage in producing that good. එහෙමත් නැත්නම් okay ඊළඟ possible scenario එක තමයි country has the absolute advantage and even the comparative advantage for producing one specific good. ඉතින් මේ කියන scenarios හතරේ ඕන එකක් ඇත්තටම වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් ඒක තමයි මේ දැන් ඔතනට අදාළ theory එක. දැන් අපි බලුවොත් මෙතන කියනවා that country does not have an absolute advantage in producing any good. Okay, ඒ කියන්නේ මෙන්න මේ column එක. The country does not have absolute advantage. Blue color එකෙන් crosses දෙක තමයි වැටිලා තියෙන්නේ. මොකද හේතුව there's no any absolute advantage. ඊට පස්සේ ඒගොල්ලෝ කියනවා it cannot have comparative advantage. No, බලන්න. මෙතනදී කියන කතාව හරි. ඒගොල්ලන්ට absolute advantage එකක් නැහැ, comparative advantage එකක් නැහැ. But in this given cell මොකද ඒ quadrant එකේ මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? Though they don't have the absolute advantage, they have the comparative advantage. ඒ නිසා this thing is wrong. And then the second one, it will have a comparative advantage in production of the good or service in which it has a lower. Yes, බලන්නකෝ. There's no such relationship between having this absolute advantage and the ability of having the comparative advantage. There's no such relationship. Absolute advantage එක නැතත් the country can have comparative advantage. Absolute advantage එක තිබ්බත් that country can have the comparative advantage. So there's no such connection. එනිසා if that given country has the lowest opportunity cost of producing that whatever the good, they can have the comparative advantage irrespective of whether they enjoy this absolute advantage or not. And so answer for this question 39 is the second one. Third one, country that does not have an absolute advantage in producing any good or service, it will export raw materials and import. ඒව ඇත්තටම කියනකොට hina යනවනේ. ඒ කියන්නේ how do we know that? ඒගොල්ලෝ raw materials කරන්නේ මොනවද කියන එක we can't comment on that thing. Right? We can't comment on that. The fourth one, no country will want to trade with this country because it is not cost effective to do so. See, the countries can engage in international trade based on the comparative advantage principle if they can't engage in trade between absolute advantage principle. This is also not relevant then. The fifth one, the international value of its currency will be fixed. We can't comment on this again simply by based on these given data. Right. Then the 40th question, the demand for Sri Lankan rupees in the foreign exchange market is derived from. Again, from which one of the following a demand arises for Sri Lankan rupees? ඉතින් අර අපි කලිනුත් ඒ වගේ එකක් කතා කළා. ඒ කියන්නේ මෙන්න මෙතනදී I told you that when the government sells bonds to the foreigners, the dollar supply increases so that the dollar supply curve gets shifted to the right side here. So when the dollar supply increases, we need to convert that dollar into rupees in order to utilize them inside this country. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා ඒ වගේ situations මොනවද? ඒ කියන්නේ dollar supply එක වැඩි වෙනවා නම් then the demand for Sri Lankan rupees will also increase. මොකද ඒ වැඩි වෙන dollar supply එක අපි convert කරන්න ඕනේ rupee වලට. ඒතකොට rupee demand also increases. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා මේක ඇත්තටම විදි දෙකකට හිතන්න පුළුවන්. From which one of the following the demand for Sri Lankan rupee increases. එහෙම නැත්නම් from which one of the following the dollar supply increases. ඔය දෙකෙන් ඕන එකකට ගන්න පුළුවන්. Dollar supply එක වැඩි වුණාම on the other side the demand for Sri Lankan rupees get increased. Right. The first one, exports from Sri Lanka. See, for the Sri Lankan exports, we receive dollars. We need to convert those dollars into rupees so that the rupee demand will increase. So that is true. Capital outflow from Sri Lanka. See, capital outflow from Sri Lanka කියන්නේ ඒ කියන්නේ ඇත්තටම එතකොට අපි demand කරන්නේ අපි පුළුවන් තරම් capital outflow එකක් වෙනවා නම් එතකොට අපි රුපී දීලා ඩොලර්ස් අරගෙන තමයි අපි outflow එක කරන්නේ. So that is wrong then. Right? That is wrong then. So this part is wrong, but the first part is correct. Exports from Sri Lanka. So once again, we do more and more exports. We receive more and more dollars. So the dollar supply increases, and we just need to convert that into rupees so that the rupee demand also increases. When capital inflows to Sri Lanka, see once again we receive dollars in the form of capital inflows. If we receive dollars, we need to convert that thing into rupees to use that in Sri Lanka. Again, the dollar demand increases. So this is the answer. The dollar supply increases so that we need to convert those dollars into rupees so that the rupee demand also increases. Then the third one, imports to Sri Lanka. එතකොට අපි ඇත්තටම කරන්නේ we demand more and more dollars. We offer, we supply rupees, we demand dollars. කතන්දරේ පැත්ත මාරු වෙලා. So this is wrong then. Again imports වෙනවා වැරදි. Then the fifth one, Sri Lanka government's holding of external resources. Like external reserves ඒගොල්ලෝ තියාගෙන ඉඳියා කියලා dollar demand එකටවත් rupee demand එකටවත් මොනවටවත් මුකුත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ අර whatever the reserve that they have, they just maintain it. If they try to increase this reserve, අන්න එතකොට ඒ demand එක supply එක වෙනස් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Maybe if they try to decrease their reserves, එතකොට ආයෙමත් dollar demand එක වෙනස් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ නිසා rupee demand එක වෙනස් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් ඒක යා hold කරගෙන හිටියයි කියලා it won't make any impact on the rupee demand. Right? So this is irrelevant there. Answer is the second one. Right. Question 21. Which of the following statements about comparative advantage is correct? So we know that this comparative advantage is always about the lowest opportunity cost. And on the other side, the absolute advantage is always about the highest productivity. Right. Now we will go through all these 5 points and let's select the most suitable answer. Right. The first one says comparative advantage is based solely on differences in climate. Is it based only on the differences in climate? No. If I show you the note related to this topic, right, there are various reasons for having this comparative advantage. So look at this note. Reasons for having comparative advantage. So under static reasons, we have differences in the amount of resources, differences in consumer preferences, and location of the country. So under dynamic reasons, we have changes, economies of scale, government policies, prudent government policies, and type of market structures. So all of these matter, right? All of these affect to the comparative advantage. So we can't just say that this comparative advantage is totally or only based on differences in climate. So that would be wrong there. The second one says comparative advantage is based solely on differences in factor endowment, amount of factors. No, that is once again wrong, because that's not the only reason that affect for the comparative advantage. Third one says to have comparative advantage, a country must also have an absolute advantage. See, I hope that you remember this simple quadrants that we develop. So here in this quadrant, right, in this quadrant, the country doesn't have the comparative advantage, but that country has the absolute advantage. But in this quadrant, what happens? The country doesn't have the absolute advantage, but it has the comparative advantage. ඉතින් ඔය වගේ ඔක වෙනස් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ නිසාම we will never select this third one to be the answer. Right. The fourth one, a country with a rising price level will lose any existing comparative advantage. See, that is one possible reason, because in economics, earlier I told you that comparative advantage is always about the lowest opportunity cost. And in economics, what do we recognize as the opportunity cost? In economics, if you remember this fourth unit, there we say that this economic cost of production, right? Economic cost of production, economic cost of production is always equal to the opportunity cost. So what happens if the price levels are rising, the raw materials, the price of the raw materials may go up, right? The price of the raw materials may go up. And as a result, even the opportunity cost may go up. So it's possible, there's a possibility to lose the existing comparative advantage. But the problem here with this statement is, this says a country with a rising price level will lose. It's not simple as that. I mean, we can't just say just because the price level is rising, the country loses the comparative advantage, because that's not the only factor that will affect to the comparative advantage. So it's not always true. So this is again not acceptable. If they just say that the country may lose the existing comparative advantage, we could have taken this to be the answer. Right. The fifth one says a comparative advantage for certain product may be created. See that now. May be created by prudential policies of the government. 100% true. Because I hope that you remember the note that I shared here. See, one of the dynamic reasons for having this comparative advantage is the prudent government policies, which means the foresighted government policies. Now, in Sri Lanka, the government may offer incentives for the garments industry. For these large-scale producers, the government may provide incentives, the subsidies. The government may allow them to bring machineries without any tax involved. So, the government may fight to get this GSP plus facility to the country, so that the local producers can export their garments to the developed countries at a very minimal cost. So such government policies may create a comparative advantage for Sri Lanka. So this is true, right? This is true. So the answer is the fifth one. So if you remember the note, you can select the answer. If not, you can just think practically and you can select the answer for this question 41. Right. Now look at this question 42. Other things being unchanged and appreciation of domestic currency. This is the third question that we discuss the same thing. I don't know whether this answer will be relevant here. හැබැයි දැන් අපි තුන්වෙනි පාරටත් මේක කතා කරනවා. ඒ නිසා මම ආයමත් කියන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. When appreciation happens, what will happen in the economy immediately? It will be a disadvantage for the exporter as they receive a low export revenue. But for the importer, that will be an advantage. That will be something beneficial because they can bring the goods at a lower cost to the country. ඉතින් ඔක තමයි කතන්දරේ. අපි බලමු ඒකම මේකටත් මැච් වෙනවද කියලා. එතකොට other things being unchanged, an appreciation of the domestic currency lowers the domestic price of the imported goods. 100% true. දැන් මට discussion ඇත්තටම නොකර බෑ. මම ආයෙමත් කියලා දෙන්නම් කතන්දරේ. එහෙනම් previously the importer, let's assume the exchange rate was this: $1 equals rupees 200, but now after appreciation $1 equals rupees 100. So previously this importer had to pay rupees 200 to import this product worth $1. But after appreciation happens, the importer just pays rupees 100 to import the same $1 worth product. And so what happens to the prices of those imported goods? That will decrease, right? That will decrease. ඒකම තමයි මේක කියන්නේ, lowers the domestic price of imported goods, and that's the answer for this question 42. It rises the domestic is simply the opposite of this, and this happens when the currency is depreciated. So after depreciation, the exporter will be benefited, but it will not good for the importer. The third one, rises the world price of imported goods. See, simply because our currency get appreciated, we can't make any influence to the world price of the product. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ ඒවා කවුරු හරි සිලෙක්ට් කරලා තියෙනවා නම් කිසිම තේරුමක් නැති answers ඒවා. Lowers the world price. See, we can't again influence on the world price. Fifth one, lowers the value of domestic currency in a foreign country. See, you see these foreign exchange rate under direct quotation system, and let me convert this into indirect quotation system so that you will be able to understand what happens to the domestic currency in a foreign country. එතකොට if I write this under indirect quotation system, 1 rupee is equal to 1/200. So that will be 0.005, right? That will be 0.005. And this is in situation 1. And in the second situation, after appreciation happens, 1 rupee is equal to 1/100, which is 0.01. See that now. Now read this. Lowers the value of the domestic currency in a foreign country. So what has happened? The dollar value of the domestic currency. The dollar value of the domestic currency has increased. Previously, it was just $0.005, but now it is $0.01. Right? So the second value is greater than this first value. Elisa, the correct statement is the opposite of this one. It's not lowers the value of the domestic currency in foreign country. No, it increases the value of the domestic currency in a foreign country. So the opposite of this is true. This given one is false. Right. Now look at this question 43. Suppose a Sri Lankan company receives rupees 40 million dividend from its garment factory located in Middle East. How would this transaction be recorded in the balance of payment of Sri Lanka on double entry principle? All right. Before you look at the double entry, we need to focus on the two accounts that are related to this transaction. So if we receive 40 million rupees as a dividend, right? Dividends we record in the primary income account, right? We record this in the primary income account. As an income, we record this in the primary income account that comes inside the current account, right? That comes inside the current account. So that is just one account that is affected from this transaction. The other account that is affected is the currency account, right? Currency account that comes inside the financial account. Financial account. එතකොට, how do we keep the double entry here? The income increases. If income increases, we should credit that whatever the amount into that account. And currency is an asset. When we receive more and more currencies, the asset amount increases. So when asset increases, we should debit that to the related account. එහෙනම් මොනවද accounts දෙක? එක පැත්තකින් primary income account and from the other side it's the currency account. හරි. හැබැයි ඔයා බැලුවොත් එහෙම අර specific account එක අඳුර ගන්න තරම් deep මේකේ මේ answers develop කරලා නැහැ. ඔයාට simply තියෙන්නේ අර main accounts එක අඳුර ගන්න එක විතරයි. එහෙනම් we should credit this thing to the current account, right? We should credit this thing into the current account and we should debit that to the financial account. But more specifically, inside the current account, we have 4 sub accounts: trade account, services account, primary income account, and secondary income account. So to be more specific, we should record this in the primary income account, right? We should credit this to the primary income account. And in the financial account, we have several other sub accounts. There, we just select this currency and deposits account, and that's where we keep the debit entry. Our answer for this question 43 is the fourth one. ඒතර ඒ දේවල් අර specific දේවල් දැන් double entry එකේ ඉතින් අපි අනිත් ඒවා කතා කරලා තේරුමක් නෑ. Because this is how the double entry works. Right? The double entry system works. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා අනිත් ඒවා කතා කරලා තේරුමක් නෑ. 44. As some factories become automated, traditional workers find themselves with mismatched skills and some of them become unemployed. At the same time, computer operators are in high demand. This type of unemployment would be classified as, okay, this is again very simple. You just need to go through the note in unit 11. In that note, we have recognized different forms of unemployment. So let me first go through the note and show you all these different forms of unemployment. Right, look at this note, unit 11. So under that, we get the types of unemployment. The first one, seasonal unemployment. So what's the meaning of this seasonal unemployment thing? This occurs when economic activities are affected by seasonal variation. මම ඔය some examples වල ගන්නේ ඔයා හික්කඩුවේ වගේ යාළුවෙක් ඉන්නවනම් පොඩක් බලන්න. එයා මේ කාලයකට විතරයි වැඩ කරන්නේ. සීසන් කාලෙට විතරයි වැඩ කරන්නේ. ඔෆ් සීසන් වැඩ නැහැ. හැබැයි සීසන් කාලෙට අර මුළු අවුරුද්දටම ඇති වෙන්න හම්බ කරගන්න. So that is seasonal unemployment. මොකද off season වලට ඒගොල්ලෝ වැඩ කරන්නේ නැහැ. Second one, frictional unemployment. See, this occurs during the transition from one job to another. ඒ කියන්නේ nothing, all the other factors remain constant in the economy. The technology and everything remain constant. You just switch from one job to another job. එතකොට during this period, you may stay at home for a particular period, and that we recognize as frictional unemployment. Third one, structural unemployment. This occurs due to significant changes in production technology or a decrease in demand for a specific good or a service. And that's what the question is about. අපි මේක ඊළඟ එකත් කියවලා මෙතනට යමු. Look at the fourth one. In the fourth one, it says cyclical unemployment. This occurs due to fluctuations in business cycle during a recessionary period. If you face this unemployment, we recognize that to be cyclical unemployment. And hidden unemployment, disguised unemployment, if not, that is the unemployment occurs when more people are employed in a particular job or activity than actually needed amount. And that happens in the government sector. Right, so let's go back to the question. In the question, it says factories become automated, which means the technology increases, right? Technology get enhanced. so that the workers find themselves with mismatched skills and some of them become unemployed. The technology get enhanced so that some of the workers get unemployed. And how do we recognize that? As per the note, we recognize that as structural unemployment. Right. The next one, 45. Which change would best describe that a country has achieved development? See, development එකක් තියෙනවා ඒ note එකේම. Wait, I'll show you that. Right. Now look at this. The way we define development. Development refers to both quantitative and qualitative improvements in the economic, political, social, and cultural aspects of human life. So this is just one way of defining the development. And the second way of defining this thing is development refers to the advancement of standard of living from an unfavorable condition to a favorable one. Okay, so keep these two definitions in mind. And now come to this question again. Question 45. Which change would best indicate that a country has achieved development? The first one, an increase in the country's real GDP. This is something quantitative. But if it is development, based on the definitions that we discussed earlier, it must be an improvement in terms of quantitative and qualitative aspects. And here it talks about only the quantitative aspect, so it's not development. An increase in the country's percentage in total world exports. Once again, this is about quantitative improvements, which is not development. An improvement in the balance of payment, numbers have improved, so which is again a quantitative improvement, which is not development. An appreciation of country's currency, again quantitative, so that's not development. The fifth one, an improvement in the average citizens' quality of life. See, the quality, the overall quality get increased, and that is the real development. It includes, when I say that the quality of life improves, inside that quality of life, we get both quantitative and qualitative aspects. So that's why it becomes the answer. Right. Question number 46. Total dependency ratio is a ratio. See, no point of discussing all the given options because these are specific things. So come to the note, and here we will find the dependency ratio, right? So dependency ratio, look at this one. Dependency ratio, we have three dependency ratios. The first one, child dependency ratio. Second, old age dependency ratio. And the other one, the last one is aggregate dependency ratio. So in the question, when they just say dependency ratio, right, in general, when they use that, they are referring to this aggregate dependency ratio. So how do we find that? Population below 15 years and above 60 or above is divided by the population from age 15 to 59, and we multiply that by 100. So that's how we do this. That's how we do the calculation. So with that, come to this. Dependency ratio is a ratio of, then what's the answer? The population below 15 years and above 59 years of age to the population age 15 to 59 years. So that's the answer for this question 46. These are very easy ones. Right. Now come to 47. Which of the following data set correctly indicates the sectoral distribution of poverty headcount index in Sri Lanka according to 2012 and 13 survey data? See that now that survey is not going to be relevant for your A-level year. So we will skip this question 47. Right. Look at this question 48. A Lorentz curve can be used to evaluate which one of the following economic issues. See, using the Lorentz curve, you can represent the inequality or maybe the equality of the income distribution in that given economy. And to be more specific, which income distribution? Because when it comes to income distribution, we have two different types of income distributions. The first one is absolute income distribution, and the second one is relative income distribution, right? Relative income distribution. So the Lorentz curve we use specifically to represent the relative income distribution in that given economy. එතර ඕක තමයි ආන්සර් එක වෙන්නේ. එහෙනම් පළවෙනි එක, the production and allocative efficiency of resources in the economy. No, you can use a PPC for that, not a Lorentz curve. The second one, the comparative advantage of trading partners. No, there's no particular graph for that. The third one, the intensity of specialization among countries. Again, you can't show that using a Lorentz curve. Fourth one, the equality in income distribution. Yes, it could be the equality or the inequality, and you can use it, you can present it using the Lorentz curve. So that's the answer. The fifth one, the relationship between unemployment and price stability. See, once again, it's not the answer because we can't present it using a Lorentz curve. So answer is the fourth one. 49. Which one of the following correctly indicates the contribution of agricultural sector to Sri Lanka's GDP and employment in 2014? See, it's not relevant to your A-level year, so we'll skip this one. Question 50. Which one of the following countries is not a member of G7, group of 7? So what are the G7 countries? First one, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, UK, and then USA are the G7 countries. එතකොට A list එකේ නැති මෙතන තියෙන එකම දේ තමයි එකම country එක තමයි, that's Russia. So answer for this question 50 is the fifth one.